Let's speak now to the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Appropriations, Mmusi Maimane. A very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for your time. I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of South Africans when I say it's always good to see those who are entrusted with the responsibility of managing public funds acting when they see wrongdoing, even if it may well be symbolic or they too may have vested interests, as is no doubt the case here with Mr. Macpherson.
Thank you very much and good afternoon to fellow South Africans. Firstly, in terms of PRECA, there is a genuine compulsion that those who know of acts of corruption must be able to report them. I think that the minister's actions must be welcomed. I would urge that in this instance, not only a suspension must be sought for the current CEO, but an arrest warrant must be put forward. The evidence is quite clear for all to see. And ultimately, as cabinet and as cabinet colleagues with the acting Minister of Police, this case must be expedited, that literally by this weekend, those who are demonstrating bribery, allegations thereof must be investigated and prosecuted urgently with the National Prosecuting Authority. Because at the end of the day, what the story also speaks to is the depth upon which people who hold public office, especially in institutions, end up wanting to manage the PR, bribe those who hold the microphone, rather than dealing with law enforcement agencies. The story should have been actually not that there was a bribery attempt for a journalist, but a bribery attempt for the police who were there to arrest the said CEO. For the story about the tender in allegation of close to 900 million had been going on for a while. And therefore, I would urge that that's urgent. And then the last thing I'd say is that I'm not certain that the institution itself must exist, because these agencies exist all over government. They are not always accountable. They have CEOs who get paid a lot of money. And at the end of the day, the delivery for value means that spaces such as these ones where corruption thrives. Therefore, action must be necessary across the board.
I mean, obviously, their salaries would have come from the public purse, not to bribe people, but to do the work that they have been employed to do. And no doubt that 60,000 rands that they were offering the journalists would have come from monies that they would have earned corruptly through perhaps similar things that they would have done before. And I'm asking this because you are one of the people over the past few months who have had to fight tooth and nail to ensure that the budget is indeed passed. Not only that, but that it goes where it is supposed to go. And at the end of the day, we now have a budget that has been approved that's supposed to go where it's supposed to go. You must, and so should millions of South Africans, feel a sense of betrayal that such people then go out after all that effort, after all the fighting that we have seen, to do what these two have actually done.
Vuyo, you speak to the core of the failure of ethical leadership. As South Africans who largely are, they're Christian, they're people who want to uphold morality, we send people to public spaces for them to do with the resources that we ask them the absolutely best they can do. It must disturb every single one of us where money is used for bribery, where in certain instances money never gets to programs it was meant to. That 60,000 rand was for a program within the department. It was for a salary of another person. And therefore, when you put it against that, it is a complete insult to the people of South Africa. That's why, for me, I welcome the fact that that it has been exposed. I welcome that a further investigation is going to be taking place. And as chair of appropriations, when the respective portfolio committee, as far as public works is concerned, I will ask the minister to ensure that more and more people who are related to any acts of corruption must be dealt with, particularly in public works where we know the history thereof. But what I would really like to see more than anything is, I think, what will justify for the people of South Africa is to see the CEO behind bars, because it is completely criminal, the actions they are doing, and the spokesman responsible. And that must send a message to everybody that it's not just the media you must worry about, it must be the police. And because this is limited funds, South Africa's economy is growing at less than 1%. Our budget of 2.1 trillion rand can barely hire enough doctors, hire enough teachers. And so when people use it for bribery, we should lock them away.
And to think that, I mean, the central figure here is someone who actually doesn't do her job, because, I mean, a week ago, we got that forensic report into the 836 million rands oxygen tender that was awarded to a ghost company. That report was quite scathing about her, that she actually slept on the job. Perhaps she didn't. I mean, everything about what she did or didn't do was actually deliberate. That's her way of making millions of rands so that she can bribe and live the kind of lifestyle she's said to be living.
At the very least, rather than this prolonged investigation, she should resign, and she should resign immediately. Suspension is not enough. But to your absolute point is that sometimes one wonders whether, and that is why I start with that point, these agencies that exist are people sent there to advance the interests of South Africans or the interest of political principles. Because when government outsources certain functions, advancing the interests of South Africa, all of these agencies, you find this court of practice comes through, because many of these agencies don't themselves come to parliament. It's the ministry that does, with multiple agencies. Therefore, I am always consistently now calling further and further that we must deal with agencies, trusts, and all of these things, because ultimately the ministries must be able to execute those functions, limit the number of people that are there, and hold people to account. Otherwise, it becomes a strenuous and a tangential process where there's a board, and then the board must suspend and an investigation. It's the same as the Road Accident Fund or any other of these agencies that exist. Now is the time for us to clear them all out, and in this particular instance, really request that the CEOs resign and certainly face prosecution.
But are those conversations taking place about the relevance and the suitability of these agencies, and if they are found to be wanting, what to do with them?
Well, at this stage, I know the Public Service Commission has invested a lot of work in trying to right-size the state, as it were. Often when people hear that they worry that you're just wanting to fire people. But actually, we need to be able to, when we go into the next phase, certainly before budget is tabled in February next year and before the medium-term budget policy statement, part of the spending reviews that I've agreed with the Minister of Finance to be able to say, let us begin to do those. The spending reviews in and of themselves can't just be a matter of let's assess whether this money is appropriated correctly, but it must ask the bang for buck question, not the probity issue, but the performance issue. So where there are programs, agencies that are delivering zero value for South Africans, we really must be able to shut those down. And the globular figure that sits at the moment is that these agencies employ close to about 177,000 people. And often people say to me, well, that's a massive figure that if you were to shut these, that was what the net consequences. I'm simply saying, let us assess their delivery, let us assess their advancement, because ultimately, if these agencies cannot operate profitably and are reliant on the public purse and then misuse the public purse because they are distant from accountability, well, they're a waste of money. And so as part of the spending reviews, I'm hoping that part of the decision in the medium-term budget policy statement is that we must deliver a state where we scrap many of these agencies so we save the public purse and begin to use it for frontline services and for economic growth.
But I mean, quarter in and quarter out, Mr. Maimane, the Public Service Commission releases reports, and these reports are saying the same things over and over again without much evidence that anything, much if anything, is being done about the issues that they raise, which go to the core of the issues you're raising.
I'm hoping that not only as part of the national dialogue, but the resetting of the government of national unity, that one of the key themes is that if you want to build an ethical state, and a capable state, that its own capability must be borne against its size and its capability. So ultimately, as we prescribe what is the right competence for a person to hold an office, these agencies and how they disappear, that post this action, post these dialogues, etc., that it doesn't become another talk shop and another report that gets tabled, but that there'd be more action. And now that Parliament, no one particular party holds an outright majority, it becomes difficult to hide many of these reports. And so as an Appropriations Committee, you can be assured that the questions that are now being put forward, not only from the Public Service Commission, but we're seeing it evidently when National Treasury accounts quarterly regarding spending, we're seeing it in state-owned enterprises and where they deliver. You can be assured that so long as I remain in the role, we will be fighting for the right sizing of those, because ultimately when the budget is voted on, it can't just be a political debate. It must eventually get down to the point that says, have we done the reviews? Have we right-sized the state and we changed it? Our vision is ultimately that we assess performance, because all of us are enamored or are animated by corruption. But we've stopped long ago as South Africans to ask for better ambition of our services, to ask for better delivery, so that when somebody is also incompetent, we must treat them as those who are corrupt, because they are themselves might be sitting in the job, not doing their job. They are wasting people's money and time. They must be dismissed from public service.
Mmusi Maimane, let me thank you for your time this afternoon as the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Appropriations.